we know, the meeting is going to be recorded, and because it's important, and I want to recognize Misha for connecting us to Kayra, for today's speaker. So thank you. But a little bit about our speaker, Kayra Martinez, and she is the founder of Love Without Borders. And hopefully she'll speak today about her remarkable journey from serving as United Airlines flight attendant based in Frankfurt, Germany, to helping North African asylum seekers who came to Europe and are experiencing very, very difficult situations. Ms. Martinez made it her mission to help refugees who have arrived in Greece after fleeing from their own war-torn countries. Her mission began more than 5 years ago after she volunteered to help refugees arriving in Frankfurt, Germany. Her volunteer work in Germany eventually led her to Greece, where she visited the Nia Kavala camp in northern Greece in 2015. After that trip, she founded the nonprofit Love Without Borders for refugees in need. And it appears that her organization uses art as a way of healing, and that's actually very interesting to me, given my background with art and using that to help heal several conditions that people are going through. So I'm very interested in that. Last year, she realized that some of the kids were using their art sessions that was provided to them to express the trauma they suffered when fleeing those countries. They painted images of people breaking out of chains and small boats sailing on the ocean, and even people falling in the water and children crying. This initiative, according to Martinez, helps expressing their art helps children heal because it allows them to express their feelings through art. Many of the kids find hope through their art sessions, and eventually they start painting images depicting their hopes and dreams for the future. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome our guest speaker today, Kayra Martinez.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Jay, for introducing, and thank you, Misha, for bringing us together. It's my pleasure to be here with you today, and I'm very happy to be able to share my project. Yes, as Jay mentioned, I have been with United Airlines for over 31 years, and in 2015, I was based in Frankfurt, Germany, and I saw on the television how there was an influx of refugees coming from Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, and other countries. And I wasn't so familiar actually what the situation was. So I just started to read a lot. I actually went to the Hauptbahnhof, the main train station in Frankfurt, and I simply asked how I could help. I didn't have any prior experience, but I did have time because we do have quite a lot of time off with our jobs. And I also speak German. So I simply went there and they put me to work straight away. I was distributing clothes and shoes and translating for many of the families that were coming in and out of the train stations, going on to refugee camps all over Germany. I think initially during that time, Germany took in 1.2 million refugees in the first year or two. So you can imagine how many people were coming through. And so I started on social media a group called Love Without Borders for Refugees in Need initially, so that I could gather clothes and shoes and other items to be brought and distributed to the train station in Frankfurt to the people. And that's how I sort of continued to communicate with all people all around in my network on many different continents. And as I was helping, I started to realize that the situation in Greece and other Baltic countries was very severe, and they didn't have the resources or the structure like Germany. So I flew to Greece in late 2015, I believe, and I flew to an island called Leros in Greece. And there were people all over the street sitting there with no food. They had no accommodation. They had nothing. And it was emergency mode, and I was there on my own. And I think with my background as a flight attendant, I am always trained to respond and to get help from those around me. So I asked for all the English speaking people that could come help me. And we went to the grocery store and we bought food, and we just started to distribute it around to the people and the children in the area. And that was my first experience in the situation. And it was quite extreme. I couldn't quite explain it to my family or my friends back home. But what I did instead is just go on every day off that I had back to Greece. And I continued my work there. And I signed on with an NGO, a nonprofit organization in a refugee camp called Nea Kavala. There were 4,000 people in that camp when I first started working there. And then it went down to about 1,500. I would say about 800 of those were children. So one day I went into the refugee camp with construction paper and acrylic colors, just thinking that perhaps the kids could have something fun to do because there was no formalized school for them. And so we sat down, and it was the first time that I saw the children so quiet, so calm. They all had smiles on their faces. And I thought, wow, art, this is it. This is what we need to do. I didn't have an art background, but it didn't matter because I had the will and the desire to see that these children were safe and happy. And I realized from their paintings that they were very traumatized. They spoke Arabic because many of them were from Syria and Iraq. And I spoke English and other languages, but we could only communicate through art. So I continued to bring the project to the refugee camp. Shortly thereafter, I rented a small apartment near the camp where I brought 2 sets of parents to my house, and they cooked traditional Syrian food while I taught the kids English and I painted with them. I started to put a couple of these paintings that were on 12 by 16 centimeter canvases and with watercolor or acrylic colors. I placed them on Facebook and explained our project that we were working on in the camp, and everybody was so excited. They wanted to be a part of the project. They wanted to buy the paintings. And from being in the camp and seeing the harsh conditions, because the people were living in tents, and many mornings they had to stand in line 2 hours for a box of orange juice and a dried croissant. So I'd made a decision, and I said, we're going to sell these pieces of art and the money will go back to the families. So we had about 15 kids per day at my house. It was a lot of excitement. The children were always so happy to be in a safe space and to get away from the camp environment. And I just let them paint. There were no stipulations on what I wanted them to paint. I just gave them the colors and told them to play with the colors and to create what they wanted. And that was the best decision because we had so many powerful paintings from their journey from Turkey to Greece. And that's where they encountered a lot of trauma from the boat crossing. And so I realized that it was really helping them to heal and helping them to express and helping them just to enjoy their childhood that they were missing out on. And so through this, we were connected to a curator in Boston. A friend of mine had an office in Boston and offered to use the space for an art exhibition. And that was in 2017, I believe. And that was our first art exhibition. NBC was there to film it. And they also flew to Greece to share my story and to interview me. And after that, the calls started coming in like crazy. I had schools from all across the United States, Germany, Sweden, China. And I said yes to everyone because it was so important to me to bring the story, to create awareness, and also to share the art from the children with communities all across the world. since I'm a flight attendant and United was very supportive of my project, I was able to bring 2 suitcases with me to each city. I think up until now, I've visited about 110 cities across the world on 4 continents and spoken to children as young as 5, university students, and communities around the world. It's not only about the awareness about what is happening in Greece and other countries for the refugees living in these refugee camps. It's also to bring the information about how powerful art really is and how art has changed lives for people in such a short amount of time, and also to change the story from the negative connotation about a refugee to create and share the story about this wonderful person, this wonderful human being that's in the refugee camp that has really suffered and has had to flee his or her country. And so for me, I want to bring those positive stories about the people and share those to the world. And it's been wonderful because we've been able to sell so much art, and we take photos of the person that purchases the art and we send it back to the artist, whether it's a child or an adult. And that photo is so powerful because it really makes the person feel special, that somebody cares about their art, about their story. And we've really had some beautiful connections. And we also write a 1-page bio for the adult artist so that people can understand a little bit more about the person who created this art. And for the children, we have a small bio card with just a bit of information about their favorite foods, what they want to be when they grow up. Many of the children want to be pilots. They want to be doctors and lawyers and artists and musicians. And it's important for those children to be able to have that opportunity in life to be what they want to be. And so my journey with this project has evolved so that we have been able to share these stories and the art. And right before COVID hit, I had about 12 events set up. I had art located strategically in Canada, all over Europe, in America, and I was ready to go speak to so many different communities. And as you all know, and I'm sure everybody has taken a toll, whether you have a business or privately, but everything was shut down and all of our events were canceled. And of course, my base in Frankfurt was also closed down. So I'm now based in Newark, New Jersey, but I haven't given up. I've created the events online. So we've had several events online, maybe just about 6 of them, but we're always looking for communities to help us to create more. And we have, unfortunately, I wasn't able to get back to Greece for 7 months due to COVID. And so I've been working still with United full time. And I just have about 2 more trips and then I'm going to be going back. But I was there for 3.5 weeks recently, and it was a wonderful experience because the lockdowns are slowly getting lifted. I had a very small workshop with just 2 children and masks and the parents. But we're working right now on purchasing a business place where we can create a community where we have art on the walls, where we're teaching languages, English, German, and Greek, where we invite people from all countries to come in and share with us and to paint, to share music and food. And so that's our big goal right now, is to create this community where we will have the refugees running it. We're going to be doing media workshops and language workshops and art workshops. And many of those workshops are going to be led by the refugees. Because what I found during this time is that in order to support the refugees, we have to empower them. And it's so, so important that we give them the decisions to create and to set their lives in the future with their own skills. We just need to be the bridge along the way and to help them. And so I have many stories, but I want to make sure that we have time to take some questions, and we can also share our website where we're selling the refugee art online. It's an Etsy shop, and 100% goes back to that artist. We find that because of the situation in Greece, most of the money that the artists receive is just used for their accommodation or for food. That's how urgent the need is in Greece. There are approximately 60,000 refugees that are all across Greece, on the islands and on the mainland. And every day I get calls for food, for diapers, and for accommodation. In the last probably 4 to 5 weeks, we have received 25 messages from them that were on the streets in Athens. Even though there are plenty of funds that are set up for the refugees to house them, the money's not getting to the programs properly. And we took in 25 people. We've been trying to refer them, but we haven't had very much success or support, even though I've contacted all of the big NGOs in Greece. So right now we have all of these people that we have to support. And we don't like to have long-term plans. We really like to focus on long-term. And if we house them, we want to house them for 1 year, and as well give them working opportunities so that after 1 year they can pay their rent on their own. So the situation is very difficult. It's also very difficult because I have to come back to the States to work every 2 weeks. And so I struggle to balance everything, but I'm very, very thankful because we do have a lot of volunteers around the world, like Misha, that you know, and she's been helping us as well to connect with other organizations here in the States. There are writers, people in the US that help us write our bios. So it takes each and every one. And sometimes people don't have the time to help in a bigger way, but every action and every action of support is really, really needed right now. And that's what I tell the children when I go to the schools. If you have an idea, if you have a plan, it doesn't matter if it's in Greece or if it's for your community. It's really important that you speak with your teacher or your classmate, your friend, or your parents about how you can facilitate that and bring it to life, because everybody has a way to help in an extraordinary way. And the numbers of the displaced are exponential. There are probably around 70 million displaced people now across the world. And so anywhere in the world, help is needed. And we have to act, and we have to create some action. And so I want to thank you all for your time. I am free to speak at a later time if you wish to reach out, and I really appreciate your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions for you as well.
Thank you, Kayra. Are there any questions that people have? And you had a PowerPoint ready. I didn't know whether there was anything you wanted to show from there, but you did such a wonderful job without it. But we do have that. Are there questions? Sandy?
So Kayra, so when you're here and you send money over there, is that what you're saying? And or do you have a key person you work with who's already settled there, and that's how you make sure that that's where it gets to?
Yes, so there's just 2 people in our organization, me and a young man from Syria who is on the ground in Athens. And so he's in charge of paying the rent. He's in charge of everything else.
Okay. And so how many people stay there? Do people stay in that facility, or they stay in other facilities, just come to your facility for art?
So right now, the community that we're discussing has not been purchased. We're looking at, we have written up a draft proposal. And so as soon as we get funding for that, we're going to be organizing that, we hope by the this year sometime. But for right now, the art workshops and the language lessons, they have been done in either another organization's location or at my house, depending on who it is. Yes.
Question for Kayra. I've been told that the Syrian education system, and of course their long history, has produced outstanding scholars, and that a large part of the Syrian population is very well educated, including the immigrants who are seeking asylum in other countries. In fact, that the Arab countries previously relied on Syrian professionals to come to their countries to help conduct business. Are you finding that that's still the case?
Yes, absolutely. I have many people from many different countries that are highly educated and very well qualified, but the problem is that they're going through their asylum process, and therefore they're not able to work, or some of them are not able to study. But we are connected with other organizations that are trying to get those people on their way to study, to get them scholarships. And when they do get their asylum, we are definitely trying to connect everybody to get work. And they're very, very wonderful people. I've been so thankful and blessed to be working with mostly Syrians since 2015. And so, and the man that works with me, he can run the whole organization on his own without me even at this point, because he understands how everything works. We always try to help the most vulnerable people. And I feel 120% confident when I'm not there that he can manage everything on his own. So yes, it's a very good point that you brought up. And we do have very many people that we're trying to connect with, whatever resources that we do have, for sure.
Mute.
Kayra, I was under the impression that some of the governments are discouraging the refugees. Is that the case with Greece?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to have to go into another room, sorry, because it's a little bit. So there were at one point 120,000 refugees and so many camps that it was very hard to facilitate housing people and food. I mean, a lot of civilians came into Greece, as you all know, and they have helped in so many ways. The funding from the EU is going to the Greek government. Recently, there was an organization, I can get that link for you. It was a Greek project that ended, and it left 7,000 people on the street. And I was in the US, and Ahmed, the Syrian man, was in Athens. He took approximately, 25 people off the street, placed them short time in a hostel, and then now we're trying to house many of those families. I have sent messages to the UNHCR and to the bigger organizations to get help, because we're a very small organization and we lost all of our funding during COVID. So I'm trying to explain that we do need safe places for these people, but there's a lack of communication between the small grassroots organizations like mine and the bigger ones. They make everything very difficult for us. So even the registration process to work inside the camps it's impossible. We've given everything they asked for, and we're still not able to work in the refugee camps at the moment. So yes, they're doing a lot of different things so that people don't go to Greece or through Greece. They want to discourage it, and the refugee camps are more and more turning into something like jails, because they're getting more walls built up. And so it's very disconcerting right now to know that when we were going into the refugee camps at one point, and we were taking art workshops for hundreds of people. I had one art workshop with 80 kids at once, if you can imagine that. I've never done that in my life. But we were so fortunate to be able to go in there. And when these people, they don't have any social connection with anybody else except for whoever's inside the camp, it's not healthy. And for us to be able to go inside, we're so happy to do that, but we're not allowed anymore. So.
There are other questions for Kayra?
Hi, thank you so much for that talk. That was incredible and you're very inspiring. What's the situation like in Syria now, generally speaking? I know that's a broad question.
Yes, I believe that there's still there's still turmoil. There's still people that are losing their homes. The prices are very expensive. I know that a lot of the refugees that I support, they get 150 euros a month for their cash card, and they send some of that home to their family in Syria, if that tells you anything. So I think that, yeah, and there's a lot of deportations, I think, from Germany to Afghanistan and to other countries that they're not placing on the safe list anymore, which is very disconcerting because many of these people have now been there for a while. They've learned the language, they've studied. And so some of those deportations are very disconcerting as well.
Are there other questions?
Thank you. Yeah, can I have a follow-up? So I'm just still thinking about what Sandy had asked you in the when we first started asking questions about just like the logistics of how it works, because it's so impressive what you've been doing. I know you're based now in Newark, I'm sorry, Philly, Newark, compared to Frankfurt and places in Europe. That must be hard. But so your colleague at your nonprofit is based in Athens, and so he is still meeting with groups of refugees and some of these kids. Are they still doing artwork, or are you kind of going every 2 weeks when you're able to? How do you make it work? I guess that's my question, logistically speaking. And my follow-up is really, if folks were to do a fundraiser for you and say buy some of the children's art, can you remind us again how how those funds might be distributed?
Sure, absolutely. So I'm going to answer your second question first. Right now, a really great way is to go onto our Etsy shop and purchase the art, and that goes directly back to the artist. So we also do online events in your community. So you would do a Facebook event or an e-bite and invite people from your community. And that's a really great way to sell the art. Right now, we're not doing a lot of art workshops in Greece, even though the lockdown is easing up a little bit, because I have approximately 350 pieces of art around the world. And I really want to focus on selling those first and getting those out into galleries and schools, etc. That's taking a little bit of time because of COVID, but it's an idea to even purchase 10 pieces of art at a school, for a school, 10 or 15, and the children organizing an educational event for them. And we had a lot of ideas. We're working with some teachers for a refugee curriculum in the future. The teachers are coming over this summer. And so we would really like to get this refugee curriculum set up so that when COVID lockdown is over, then I can go and speak at the schools again and also bring the art collection along with me. And yes, it's a very complex project, and it's because I'm a flight attendant that it works. I don't sleep much and I work a lot, but it's okay. So I usually try to fly my max hours, which is around 12 to 15 days a month, and then fly back to Greece for 2 weeks. And all my vacations, since I've been flying so long, I have like 4 months of vacation. All my vacations are spent in Greece. So I do have a lot of time off, which is good. And every morning I have a meeting with Ahmed, and we go over and discuss all of the situations that we have with the people that are calling us that are on the streets, medical issues, legal issues. We have every kind of issue you can imagine, and we take one by one. And we are also housing a lot of families at the moment because of the situation in Greece. So yeah, so basically he has the card so he can take out money and pay for things that are there. We have a spreadsheet where we work on together. And yes, we do a lot between two people, but it's just so effective because when people call us and there's a need, you can actually go there and meet them face to face. So we know that the need is valid. I was helping in other countries, in Lebanon for a while, and even in European countries. But I realized with just a small group of people that in order to help these people, we need to be able to sit down with them and listen to them and understand them completely before we offer any help. And so that's why we're just focusing on Greece right now.
Great. Thank you, Kayra, so much for speaking with us today. We really enjoyed it. I know I learned a lot. I'm sure all of us have. And we want to thank you for coming here today. And it's a small thank you, but meaningful one, is one of Rotary's signature projects is to eliminate polio around the world. And it's down to 2 countries now. And as a small thank you to you for appearing here today and giving this wonderful presentation, we're going to inoculate 6 children in your honor to prevent them from receiving the very often deadly disease of polio. So thank you. And there's a sample of it up there, the certificate, and I'll email this to you at a later time. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Have a nice day.
Yeah, thank you. We'll be in touch for sure.